Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We've got a great show for you today, and I know that you're going to love it. What do we have today? Well, we have got a special pre-archery deer season special. We're going to be talking with the folks from BigBuckRegistry.com. You can go check that out anytime, but that's going to be a lot of fun. You guys know I love my bow hunting, so we'll be talking about that. Then we've got Inside Skip's Brain to start it out, and we'll talk about what's in the news. And then, of course, in segment 4, we've got the wrap-up. But before we get into anything, let's first delve deeply. Let's dig down inside the bowels, the recesses, the icky, sticky, gooey masses of what has grown to become my brain. There's a lot of stuff down there. Some of it's scary. Some of it's horrible. But most of it is just me, Skip Coryell, a warm, lovable little fuzzball. What have I been doing in my life? Well, I've finished up most of my canning. We got the beets done. We just have to do, just a little bit of stray canning. The wood pretty much brought in, just got a little bit more stacking to do, but hey, we are getting ready for winter. As you know, fall is the deep breath before the icy cold plunge into wintertime, especially up here in the north. I'm getting ready to camouflage my studio. That's right, I'm here in the studio booth, but I was over at Bob's Gun and Tackle about 10 days ago, and they had camouflage cloth on sale, so I thought, you know what, that looks like it's good sound-absorbing cloth, and I'm tired of looking at these flannel sheets and towels that I have hung up to absorb the sound. I will make it a really nice camouflaged sound booth in honor of the 2017 deer season. And I have a birthday coming up. This is not just any birthday, folks. This is the big 60. That's right, 6 decades. I've been alive for 60 years. Here in a couple of days here, 3 days from now. So I'm still 59. I'm in my 50s, but only for a very short while. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I thought, what happened to my midlife crisis? I think I went by my midlife crisis without even noticing it. I was too busy getting divorced and getting remarried, then getting divorced and getting remarried, and that just totally screwed up my midlife crisis. I didn't have time for it. Oh man, just thinking about that makes me thirsty. I need a drink here. I'm saving my Mountain Dew for later. Right now I've got a mocha frappuccino, ice cold, and I put it in my Happy Duck Dynasty can cooler. Oh yeah. I can't stand the taste of coffee, but I married a woman from the West Coast. She went to college in Seattle, grew up in Oregon, right there on the coast. They drink coffee like crazy there, but their coffee costs like $7-8 a cup, and it takes 5 minutes to order it because they're talking about some kind of latte, filtered cream doodah. But Sarah said, can you just drink coffee with me? I think it would be so romantic. And of course, hey, I'm all about romance. And I tried to drink coffee. I couldn't do it. It just tastes so bitter. It just tastes terrible to me. It's the same way with alcohol. I can't drink alcohol either. It all tastes like cough syrup to me. But I finally had to settle on mocha frappuccino because I don't think there's a whole lot of coffee in there. I think it's mainly milk, sugar, and some coffee. Well, let me look at the ingredients here. Well, Actually, I can't read the ingredients. They're too small. That is just terrible. Once again, I'll be turning 60 here in 3 days. I was looking through the book I wrote last year, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry book. And in chapter 14, it's titled, When Gunfighters Get Old. And, all through this chapter, I talk about how to defend yourself after your prime, the importance of staying in shape, the strength of old age, and dealing with loss of eyesight, loss of speed, loss of stamina, and strength. Folks, I'm still looking for the upside of old. I mean, okay, granted, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've gained wisdom from those mistakes, but I just don't have the energy and the drive to do anything about it. So that's the downside of being old. You just lose your stamina, but you definitely have perspective. I don't get excited about the little things. Okay, all right, so a hurricane's coming. Yeah, well, I'll deal with it when it gets here. Yeah, the little things don't bother me anymore. Water off a duck's back. Family's healthy, everyone's doing fine. Getting ready for bow season. Oh gosh. My crossbow is, I took it out, shot it the other day, and realized that the bowstring needed to be replaced, so I've got that in order. It's scheduled to be here today. So I'll be replacing the bowstring and then practicing for 2 weeks, and then I'll be out there hunting Bambi. Well, that's about it for my life. What's going on now in the news? Oh, I am at bearingarms.com. Headline reads, Man gets 8.5 years for killing with stray round. A Washington state man was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for manslaughter after he killed a neighbor while shooting at a car thief. Gosh, I shouldn't laugh at that. He killed his neighbor. Tobin Panton, age 40, accidentally shot and killed 61-year-old Linda Green when he exited his home after noticing his Jeep leaving his driveway. Oh man, this happens way, way too much. And this woman, Linda Green, she was in her prime, 61 years old. Young kid of 40 shot a little old lady. Oh man, no wonder he got 8.5 years. Tobin Panton, 40, of Bonnie Lake in the Tacoma area, was sentenced last week in Pierce County Superior Court on 1 count of manslaughter in the first degree for the death of 61-year-old Linda Green. Quote, instead of calling 911, he took matters into his own hands, said Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Erica Nohavec. He didn't think of any of his neighbors, and Linda Green lost her life that day. How many times have I told you folks, don't shoot at fleeing felons. And you can't use deadly force to defend against property. It's a bad thing. Bad thing to do. You get your Jeep, fine, you should have locked it up. You get a new Jeep, but you don't kill your neighbor. The incident, which occurred last November, happened just after Tobin was getting out of the shower and saw his Jeep leaving his driveway. Retrieving his .40 caliber Glock, Tobin fired at the departing vehicle from his porch until he ran out of ammunition. My God, that's got a 15-round magazine capacity. Oh man, on the Model 22 anyways. Pierce County deputies were called a brief time later to a home 2 blocks away from the man's residence where Green was found shot in the head in her sleep. So inside her house, oh my gosh. Detectives discovered a bullet hole in the window of Green's home that faced Tobin's porch and numerous strike marks on the front of her residence, as well as her next-door neighbor's home. Undoubtedly, comments will be made regarding Panton's accuracy, but I also think that's the wrong lesson to take away here. Yeah, me too. First, he used force in a situation that didn't necessarily warrant the use of force. Yep. Can't use deadly force to protect your car, unless, of course, you're inside the car. While I believe anyone who has been the victim of a theft understands the sentiment, firing in a situation where you did not have a legitimate fear of physical harm is a bad idea. It would have been different if Panton was being carjacked, but that's not what happened. he was safe and sound inside his home when the car was being stolen, so he went outside to shoot at the thief, thus creating a potential for harm where little to none existed. Yeah, that was a really bad idea, and he'll be thinking about that for the next 8.5 years. Wow. Second, he failed to account for his surroundings. Panton failed to consider where else his rounds would go. Remember that Rule 4 says to know your target and what is beyond. Yeah, it's a lesson on penetration, too. My gosh. Folks, just check your pride at the door. Your ego, check it at the door. Your anger, check it at the door. Okay, so someone stole your car. So what? Is it the only car you're allowed to have and you'll never ever get to buy another one? No, that's not the case. Just buy a new car. It's if you're in debt, fine. This guy, he's not going to be driving for the next 8.5 years now. Panton expressed his remorse during his trial, and I have every reason to believe it's genuine. It's a shame, but for better or worse, Panton is responsible for where his rounds end up, not just where he meant for them to go. Here's another thought to consider here. Even if let's say he hadn't hit the poor old lady. Oh my gosh, I just referred to her as old, and she's only a year older than me. Oh boy. Let's say he'd actually been a really good shot and hit the guy fleeing and killed the man. He'd be going away in prison for a lot longer than 8.5 years because he was not legally justified in using deadly force. So, on the one hand, thank God he's a bad shot. On the other hand, it's a crying shame that he killed this little old lady. This was someone's mother, someone's grandmother, and she died in her sleep because this idiot wanted to go out there and play John Wayne. Bad judgment. Don't do this, folks. It's a really, really bad idea. All right, well, that's about all we have time for in the news. Take that lesson to heart. Do not shoot at fleeing felons. Don't chase fleeing felons. If you're safe inside your house, stay inside your house until the threat is gone. Call 911. Get the police out there. Let them do it. That's their job. They're trained for it. You've got no business trying to play cop. All right, folks. Well, we're out of time for segment 1. But when we come back, we're going to be speaking with the folks at BigBuckRegistry.com. They've got a podcast all dedicated to teaching you how to become a better deer hunter. So we'll be speaking with Dusty Phillips from Ohio, Jay Scott from New Hampshire, and Jim Keller from my home state of Michigan. Okay, folks, you got a 2-minute break. While I am gone, go ahead and listen to our wonderful sponsors, but also go on BigBuckRegistry.com and check it out. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Big Buck Registry. This is Skip Coriel on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is Skip Coriel. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coriel. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coriel from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. This is Skip Coriel from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the child-safe one off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child-Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child-Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child-Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We have a special treat for all of you today. As you all know, I am just a fantastic bow hunter. I love to do it. I'm fanatical about it, and I'm looking forward to October 1st here in Michigan because that's the opening day of archery season. So I thought I would, have on some special guests from Big Buck Registry.com, and I want to welcome Dusty Phillips, Jay Scott, and Jim Keller. Boys, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
What's up, Skip?
Hey,
What's happening, Skip? Thanks for having us on.
Hey, thanks for being there, guys. Jim, why don't you tell us, what is Big Buck Registry all about?
Well, actually, Jay started Big Buck Registry about 3 years ago, and more or less, I think the goal kind of starting off was to preserve stories that people have about, their deer hunts and successes, failures, what they learned. And I think over time it's evolved to a long-term archive of just your average Joe hunter who had some good luck and got a good buck, to celebrity hunters, to anybody that's got a story to tell. I think we focus more on the story than anything else. We like people to tell us a little bit about themselves. Sometimes they've got some, interesting job, like they could be a hunting celebrity. Other times they're just a normal Joe like us, goes into work every day and had a good day out in the field and came down with a good buck. So we have them share their secrets, their tips, the things they do and don't do, whether it's the moon phases or scent control, anything like that. We like to hear all their secrets. So we think that by being a part of this and having everybody listen, they also become better hunters by just learning what other people have learned in their experiences.
I go even so far as to say we're dissecting the habits of world-class deer hunters. And when I say deer hunters, I don't mean just bow hunters or gun hunters. I mean both. I mean anybody that's got some kind of admirable skill set. It could be the person that's well-known to the person that nobody's heard of, but we have to go out and find those people and interview them and find out what makes them tick, what gets them in the woods, their philosophy on hunting, what kind of skills and tactics and strategies they use for their particular area. And just trying to basically put that back out there so that other people who can have quick access for free to this information and take a little bit of the guesswork out so everybody can be a better hunter. And, our undertone message, I think, is safety and conservation. So people tune in to get the tips and tricks and listen to their favorite hunters and listen to some great hunters that you never heard of. But overall, we're trying to promote safety, tree stand safety, safety with firearms, and ultimately conservation, so that hunters being conservationists, the ultimate conservationists, I think that's really the overall tone.
Yeah, and that's Dusty Phillips from Ohio, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Now, Dusty, are there really any big bucks in Ohio? Be honest with me.
None at all, Skip.
So don't come here, right?
Don't come here. Yeah, that sounds about right. Actually, we're really fortunate to be in a mecca of whitetail, truthfully, as far as the row crops and the nutritional value of the row crops. And, there's water, food, and plenty of bedding areas. And that, we get on the show, Big Buck Registry Deer Hunt Podcast, and we break that down. We try to cover a lot of states, and Ohio is unique in its own way.
but every state's unique in its own way. There's so many different ways to hunt different states. But yeah, I'd say Ohio is a whitetail mecca.
And Jay, you are from New Hampshire, correct?
Yes, I'm the antithesis to Ohio.
That's a pretty big word for a bow hunter.
Well,
antithesis.
I'm a New Hampshire bow hunter. We have lots of time to think out there in the woods.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now, if you're planning a New Hampshire bow hunting whitetail trip, just save yourself a whole lot of time and money. Don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Or bring a couple of good books, right?
Right. Yeah.
Buy a turkey tag, you'll be okay.
Jay, if it's that bad, how did you pick New Hampshire then? I mean, you're an avid bow hunter. Why go to New Hampshire?
Well, I was born here. And,
well, that sucks.
My home state. Well,
yeah.
It depends on how you look at it.
I'm not going to say that sucks, and I'm going to speak my opinion on this because it's something that there's value in New Hampshire as far as the challenge of whitetail hunting. Right. You go to New Hampshire, you kill a great buck, you're a true hunter. Not just because of the fact that there's big bucks there, but there is not big bucks there. If you get in there and root around and locate this big buck and you get set up on him, there's so many acres of land there of timber that these deer can range on, and there's no set patterns.
Yeah. Well, that's all well and good, but I think I'd rather be an unskilled hunter in really good buck territory than a skilled hunter in New Hampshire. But hey, nothing against you, Jay. You're very talented, I'm sure. So you guys, you all hunt, whitetails, bow, crossbow, muzzle loaders, rifle. What? We'll start with Dusty. What is your tool of choice when you're taking bucks?
I've got away from the compound bow and I went to crossbow. Everybody says, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." Well, opportunity. I had a shoulder issue a few years ago, and now that I went to a crossbow, the opportunity to harvest a true mature buck has really advanced it. Just because of the fact that with a compound bow, you don't always get that opportunity because you got to get that arm back, you got to get that right angle to make the shot. With a crossbow, you're more stealthy, less room for error. And it seems like the success rates went up, I'm going to say 50%, as far as getting the arrow released and putting it in the boiler room and killing that particular buck. Don't get me wrong, firearm season comes around. I'm definitely grabbing the 44 Magnum straight wall cartridge rifle, and I'm going to the woods. Some people, I'm strictly bow. Yeah, that's all great, but that firearm season's there, and I capitalize on all seasons and try to hunt safe and do my thing.
Yeah. I can relate to the crossbow thing because, it must have been about 4 years ago, I got a shoulder injury, and I was always a compound bow hunter before that. And, some guys they'll poo-poo crossbow hunters saying, it's not challenging enough. But, once you have a shoulder injury and you can't pull that heavy compound back anymore, that crossbow is really nice. And I've gotten used to hunting with it. Now that my shoulder's healed up, I still use the crossbow. I mean, I love having the scope on there. It, collects light so much better. There's not as much movement. I scare fewer deer, and quite frankly, I am not a trophy hunter. I mean, okay, I am a trophy hunter, but I just never got one. I fill the freezer every single year, and boy, I love that. I love that crossbow. That's my tool of choice. Jay, what about you? How do you hunt?
I'm more or less hunting based off of the regulations in New Hampshire. I mean, I do hunt out of state. I've gone to Ohio with Dusty. I haven't hit the great state of Michigan yet, but hopefully Jim and I can connect on that sometime soon. I've gone to Maryland, and it's kind of been my spot lately to get out of state early season. But when I'm in New Hampshire, generally speaking, I'll do the compound bow early, and ultimately we wait for snow to fly, which means you're carrying a gun. We do a lot of tracking and we rely heavily on the snow to find the bigger deer because there's so many places to hide, being 85% timber here. And I can't use a crossbow in New Hampshire. It's not legal during the bow season. I have to use it during the firearm season. So there's not much of an incentive for me to buy a crossbow unless I'm trying to get into an area and hunt with silent discharge. So
yeah. Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're talking upwards of $1,000 for a good crossbow and all the accessories. So,
right,
absolutely.
Well, the advantage is a lot of the guys I hunt with in Maryland hunt with crossbows, and like you just said, there's less movement, scare more deer. I can definitely see the advantages. And if I lived somewhere else, I would go with a crossbow.
Well, I remember the first deer I shot with my crossbow. It really surprised me because the deer was quartered towards me. And I went through the front shoulder, and I went diagonally through that whole deer, and it stuck about 10 inches into the dirt after I went by. And boy, I think that deer traveled like 10 yards, and then it dropped right over. They hit really, really hard, which I appreciate. Now, Jim, what about you? You're in my home state of Michigan here. How do you hunt?
I like all the above. I start out usually with a compound. I do have a crossbow. I've not taken it out yet. I've had it for about 2 years and keep thinking that, I hit some bad weather or someplace or something like that where I've got some challenging conditions. I might pull out the crossbow, but I just love that compound too much. And then here in Michigan, especially the lower half of Michigan, usually a shotgun with slugs or actually I picked up one of those Ruger 450 Bushmasters for this year and going to give that a try.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oddly enough, I mean, I teach pistol. I teach concealed carry, but I've never hunted deer with a pistol. Maybe I don't like a challenge, but I just, I look at the shotgun with a slug and a deer walks up 50 yards away. I pretty much want to know that when I shoot him, he's going to go down and, hey, it sounds like fun, though. It's on my list of things to do. I just haven't. Part of the problem with us hunters is we can't do everything that we want to do. We just don't have enough time. But, hey, all right. So
true.
We're just about out of time for this segment. Before we go, though, just tell people where they can go to tune into your podcast.
All right, I'll start that list, and I'll turn it over to Jay because he recites at the end of every one of our podcasts, so he's probably got it.
Okay, all right.
Right, you're right.
Go ahead, Jay.
A couple different places. You go to iTunes. That's probably the best place to go to. Every single place that you can go, I've got it labeled. So it's BigBuckRegistry.com/iTunes. You can listen to it on Stitchers, all in the same format, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. We're also projecting all of the audio into a video on YouTube. So if you don't have access to those things, no matter what device you're on, you can always grab a YouTube video. We're also on, we always post it to a Facebook posting. So we always have the audio and video versions of the audio, if that makes any sense, on Facebook. We always post to our Twitter account, which is Big Buck Registry. It's uniform across the board. And we're on Instagram too, but can't figure out how to do any links on Instagram. So when that changes, we'll let you know.
All right. Fantastic. Okay, folks, so we got a 2-minute break here. While I'm away, go out to BigBuckRegistry.com and check out these guys, Dusty, Jay, and Jim. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the forecast for 2017. What is the whitetail deer season going to look like? This is Skip Coyle on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We're speaking with the boys at BigBuckRegistry.com. We've got Dusty Phillips in Ohio, Jay Scott in New Hampshire, and Jim Keller from Michigan. We need to get a preseason scouting report, and if we can make it nationwide, that would be fantastic. What can deer hunters expect this year, 2017, in their deer hunt?
Here in Michigan, we'll start with my home state. I will tell you that just from my trail cameras, seem to have bounced back from EHD that hit us about 5 years ago. I'm seeing, huge ratio of bucks to other deer, does and fawns. Seems like we had a good fawn crop. Been keeping tabs on a lot of the same fawns. They don't seem to be impacted. The coyote population seems to be down that kind of cycle, so I think we're in a down cycle. So I think this is going to be a good year in Michigan, and I think we've got, unlike the past, I think we've got a pretty good buck-to-doe ratio. Just did a recent story on California. They are phasing in their seasons. They've got different zones, and they set it up that way, and in some areas they had better rain than usual, so they're opening those zones early, but some of the other zones, due to drought situations, they're either limiting the number of tags or not having those zones open as much. So if you live in California, you definitely want to check your rules and regulations. If you work your way across the West, we've got, it seems like EHD is rearing its ugly head in a few places. CWD is also starting to take its toll in Wyoming and Colorado. I expect the population will be down a little bit in those states, but there's still plenty of good deer, especially whitetail if you want to go for mule deer in like Montana, Colorado. Idaho still is a good state to go in. Keep coming further east. I know Kentucky and Tennessee are starting to see some signs of EHD. Population, I know some friends that hunt out in Missouri. Their population is down a little bit this year, but still some massive bucks running around out there, especially northern Missouri. Iowa has seen pretty good population this year. Things are expected to go well there, and then from there I'll hand it over to Dusty.
I predict here in Ohio that the herd's really healthy. We got good crops coming in. It looks like the harvest is going to go as planned. Once the crops get off, they'll have still some nutrition to eat here. No signs of the blue tongue or the EHD here in our state. Now, Eastern Kentucky, I know you're going to be eating a lot of tag soup down there. Just be prepared for that. They had a lot of the blue tongue situations in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky in particular. But here in my home state of Ohio, I think that the herd's thriving, and everybody's going to get a good visual on a good shooter buck this season. Buck-to-doe ratio looks good, and the fawns come on strong, and they're looking healthy, and everything's going as planned here in the Buckeye State.
Fantastic. Well, all right, that leaves Jay Scott in New Hampshire. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
So I can give you a couple of different synopses here. I've been hunting a little bit in Maryland already this year, and so that's kind of becoming my second go-to state. But the New Hampshire deer population doesn't seem to have any of the EHD or blue tongue or anything like that. I don't know. It's probably related to our lack of deer that we have here. But as an indicator, I can see we're seeing more deer. They're telling me that the populations are really strong, as is population of deer in my neighboring state of Vermont. They're saying that the deer herd's as strong as it's ever been, and that's what the biologists are telling us. And then just empirically, where I'm actually looking at what I'm seeing more deer. I'm seeing more deer killed on the highway than I've ever seen. If you want to, I think that's a good indicator. So I'm getting good reports. So it should be a pretty close to record year is what I'm predicting, even though the last 2 winters have been pseudo mild. 2 winters ago we had pretty much no snow, and we do experience a decent amount of winter kill here with snow when it gets deep and cold. But even last year we had some snow, but it didn't hang around very long. So I think combination of the last 2 winters is probably going to chalk out to be a banner season in New Hampshire.
Well, that's encouraging. That's good. Now, I love to talk about the rut. All right. It seems like we're having an early fall here, at least, up here in Michigan we are. Do you guys think that we're going to have an early rut to coincide with the early fall? Or are you not even experiencing that?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. I think that here in Ohio, with the way things are looking, I think the rut should be right as scheduled, going back previous years and kind of comparing what our trees are doing, what our crops are doing, and I predict that we're going to see a start of the rut about the 8th or 10th of November, and it's going to lead into the full-blown rut through the 15th or the 20th, somewhere in there of November. I think we're right on schedule here in Ohio.
Okay. What about you, Jim?
That's a tough question anymore, because we have had a lot of people on the show, and we hear everybody's theories on that, whether it's moon phases or weather or, what's the pressure system like. And I recently did a story where they did a real scientific study on the moon phases and how all that plays into animal movement, especially deer movement, and they drew no scientific correlation. So I'm still kind of old school with that. If nothing else, I find it interesting to try and kind of coordinate all that stuff and see if it does make a difference. So I'm going to agree with you, Skip. I think we've seen a mild summer. I think fall will come a little bit early. I think we've probably got a long winter ahead of us, and I think that is going to bump everything up. Where our rut might usually come in around the 15th or be peaking at that time, we could probably see it maybe after that first week in November this year.
Yeah, I typically in Michigan, it's like the first week of October. It might be a little too hot depending on the year. It varies, but I'll see a lot of deer because they're still pretty stupid in that first week, which I love. I love those deaf, dumb, and blind deer. I mean, those are like my favorite ones. But, then they'll get a little smarter. They feel the pressure. They kind of go away for a while. And then, right around the end of October, 25th or so, they'll start to get a little antsy and they move around. And boy, I try to be hunting hard from like Halloween right up until the opening day of gun season, which is November 15th here in Michigan for us. All right. New Hampshire. What does the rut run like there in New Hampshire?
The rut usually runs somewhere between the 10th of November and the 30th of November, typically peaking around the 20th. And then I don't think that's going to be any different than any other year. It always seems to be that year in, year out. All the biologists predicted, and I don't see that changing at all here either. That being said, I can tell you that after we talk to so many people and talk to the deer biologists, the deer doctors, so on and so forth, it seems like the rut, or a phase of the rut, if you want to consider it, going back to Ken Nordberg, talking about the rut kind of kicking off now in a phase of it where the antlers are hardening up and the velvet start to come off, and you can kind of start to kick them into this different mode, and then testosterone builds and builds and builds to the point where they get real stupid around somewhere between the 15th and 30th of November.
Yeah, I just love those stupid deer. I mean, they taste just like the smart ones. But
they do.
All right. The ones that have allergies and can't smell anything. That's my best defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, who's got a big buck story? We got about 2 minutes left. Who's got the best big buck story? Something with humor in it.
Dusty's got the best big bucks. You got a good story, Dusty?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go with the story. 2010. I don't know about there much humor in it though. I've been chasing a buck or watching a buck. I watched this particular buck that I shot grow up in my in-laws' backfield. It every season come in and progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had opportunity to kill that buck a few times previous years, and I said, just one more year, give it one more year, and I did. And real fortunate to watch that buck grow up, and every year he progressed, and as time went on, he grew into a 174 and 7/8 inch typical whitetail, mainframe 10-point with two sticker points on the G2s. Had two little kicker tines, but just a nice, beautiful hot whitetail. And on the day I shot that deer, I was walking in and didn't know it. I was walking into the tree stand, and I got a glimpse of deer up in front of me, and I was like, well, man, they're already out here. I'm running behind or something. I got to watch them for a minute, and one particular deer would never stick his head up, never would raise his head up. And I said, I wonder what's going on there. So I stood there. It seemed like what was a half hour, 45 minutes. Really, it was 2 or 3 minutes. But finally, this particular buck, this deer, raised his head up, and I was like, oh gosh, oh man, I knew right away. I knew it was a great buck. I didn't know exactly which buck it was. It was 2010 Ohio shotgun season, and as soon as he raised his head up, I got a glimpse of antlers. He put his head back down. I said, man, that's a good mature buck. 9 times out of 10, a good mature buck will try to hide them antlers. He'll either lay down or just keep his head down below the weed line or whatever he's standing in. And sure enough, I raised the head back up. I could only see one particular deer. And I was like, man, what's going on here? I just kept watching, and he raised his head up again, and finally I got to see what it was. And I said, oh my gosh, that's a buck that is known as Old Chubby Tines. And I said, oh man. So I was able to take a good rest. Sure enough, I squeezed one off right. He was facing right at me, so I shot him right dead square in the chest. And I didn't know it at the time when I pulled the trigger, but he'd lower his head down, and that slug went right in through the top of his nose and all the way down through into his chest cavity, down his neck. He had his head down. And as soon as I squeezed the trigger, I seen him drop, and here jumped up a doe. And as she ran off, I said, thank you, sweetheart. And everybody says, well, why'd you say that? I said, because that's the only reason that big buck was standing there on his feet in daylight hours.
Yeah.
But it was a great hunt, and it was very cool to be able to watch a deer grow up. And I'm guessing the buck, not knowing exactly the date he was born or the year he was born, but judging by antler size and body size, I'm going with a 6.5-year-old buck. Well, he sure is a nice deer, and definitely honored to be able to harvest a buck of that caliber and try to top it every year since, and maybe this will be my lucky year.
Well, I hope that it is, Dusty. Now, being, seasoned professional bow hunters like the three of you are, you've probably never, ever missed a shot, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Not by
no comment on that.
Yeah, there's more stories there. We don't have time for probably all. I once missed the same deer 5 times, and I don't have time to tell you how that happened. But boy, I tell you, I'm still kicking my butt on that. But anyway,
you got to look at it like this: if you don't go out and miss one, you haven't been hunting long enough.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Okay, hey boys, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show. We appreciate the benefit of your experience, your wisdom, and the fun, all about big bucks and hunting. We're going to be gone for for about 2 minutes here. Go to BigBuckRegistry.com.
They can look up our app. We got a free downloadable app for your smartphone. That's Big Buck Deer Hunter 2015. You can download the free app.
Oh, fantastic. All right, that's great. Well, again, Dusty Phillips from Ohio, Jay Scott from New Hampshire, Jim Keller from Michigan. Thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, this is Skip Coryell, host of the Home Defense Show. I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat. It'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book, by yours truly, Skip Coryell. This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. After those last two segments, you might be thinking, Skip, what does deer hunting have to do with home defense? Well, quite frankly, it has a lot to do with home defense, and I'll go over that right now. First and foremost, home defense against hunger. If your family is like my family, you have dietary limitations. My wife Sarah, my 7-year-old Phoenix, they cannot eat processed food, food with hormones, and just about everything out there these days. If you buy it in the store, it's processed. It's got soy, it's got gluten, and my family can't eat that. It's a hereditary thing, and I can eat just about anything. But I tell you, more and more families are having to watch what they eat. Wild game is the purest meat you'll ever find. It's low fat, high in protein. There's no downside, except for the effort that you have to go out and get it, which, boy, for a lot of people is fun. So defend your family against hunger by killing your own food. I mean, here at the Coryell household, we grow our own vegetables, we grow our own fruit, we can it all, we dehydrate it, we freeze it, and then in the fall, I hunt the food, I kill it, I gut it out, I drag it back, I hang it up, I process it, and I get it all packaged up. Some of it I'll can. I'll dehydrate some jerky, which is really nice, and then I'll freeze steaks and burger. Home defense against hunger. It's an important aspect of home defense. You may have noticed some of the stories that we have in the news. Every couple of months there'll be a story about food contamination somewhere. The Coryell family does not have to worry about food contamination. We make our own food. It doesn't have preservatives, additives, hormones, and no one else has touched our food because we prepare it ourselves. What else? In my classes, when I talk about the software of personal defense, one of those software aspects is patterning. I liken the animal world to the human world, and there are quite a few similarities. people who are preying on us, the bad guys, the muggers, the rapists, the killers, they're wolves. And many of us are sheep. But when these human predators come after us, first they do their scouting, just like we do in deer hunting. I went out right after segment 3. I went out to my property here. I've got 20 acres with a creek running right through it, and I've got a couple of trail cameras set up right on the creek. And every week I'll go out there very quietly. I'll wade down that creek as quiet as I can with the wind to my advantage. And I'll go ahead and I'll swap out those SIM cards, and then I'll come back to my computer and I'll go ahead and view all of the videos of deer walking down that creek, and I'll write down the times, how many there were, whether they're does or bucks. And after a while I see a pattern. Oh, this particular deer is always here at 7:18 p.m. or 7:15 p.m. But after a while I get so I know where the deer are going to be and when they're going to be there. That's called patterning. If you allow yourself to be patterned as a human by these wolves, human wolves, you're going to be in big trouble. If you can be patterned, you can be killed. So don't allow yourself to be patterned. I liken it to the bedding area, the travel corridors in between, and the food plots. You can't walk into a bedding area and just walk up on the deer and say, "Hello, Mr. Deer, I'll be your killer today." It doesn't work that way. They see you, they hear you, they smell you, they run away or they sneak away and you never see them. The bedding area in human terms is your house. It's your home. It's your castle. It's where you defend yourself. You've got locks on your doors, on your windows. You got alarm systems. You got dogs that bark. You got all of these wonderful defenses and your own home. So that's the bedding area. The bad guy knows he should not sneak up on you in your bedding area. One of their biggest fears is an armed homeowner. That's why most home invasions occur between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. because they know you're not going to be there. You're at work. Now, what is the food plot? The food plot to a deer, that's the place that he goes every day. He goes to the alfalfa field, the cornfield, and he'll walk there pretty much the same time every day, morning or night, to go ahead and eat. Where is the place that human beings go every single day, Monday through Friday, the same time every morning, and they leave the same time every night? It's your place of employment. It's the corporate world. It's where you go to work. At your employment place, you probably have surveillance cameras. You've got alarm systems there. You have to badge in and badge out electronically. You've got security guards there. You've got sufficient lighting in the parking lot. It's pretty secure. You know who belongs there and who doesn't. So you're secure in your home and you're secure at your place of employment. What does that leave? That leaves the travel corridors in between. The travel corridors are that route that you follow every day when you go from your home to your place of employment. When I was in the corporate world, I would go ahead and I would get up at the same time every day. I'd brush my teeth, shower, shave, get dressed. I'd leave at the same time. I'd take the same route to work. I'd stop at the same gas station, go back to the same cooler, get my Mountain Dew or my Frappuccino, whatever my caffeine of choice was. And then I would leave, go to work. I'd park in the same spot at work. I'd go into the same door at the same time. And then I would work there, and then I'd leave at the same time every day, go home. It would be very easy to pattern me. That's the problem with a 9-to-5 job. I don't do that anymore, and neither should you. Mix it up. Don't stop at the same gas station. Don't park in the same spot. Vary your times that you depart. If you can be patterned, you can be ambushed. Do not allow yourself to be ambushed when you're in those travel corridors. The bad guy has just as much right to be in those travel corridors as you do. So it's not like, when you're at home, you see someone crawling in through your window, okay, that's a bad guy. But when you're out and about at the gas station, you don't know he's a bad guy until he pulls out the knife and threatens you. So in those travel corridors, that's where you're going to be ambushed. What else? Well, remember Gabe Suarez a while back? We had him on the show, and one of the things he talked about was the difference between the bad guys and the good guys. The good guys, we're good people. We don't want to hurt anyone. But he also said that the sociopaths, the bad guys, the muggers, the rapists, the killers, they are very comfortable with the idea of killing you. They don't bat an eye about it. It's not a big problem. They have desensitized themselves to killing. Now, I want you to temper what I'm about to say. Hunting is important in personal defense because it desensitizes the average human to killing. Not killing other humans, but killing other mammals. When I shoot a squirrel, when I shoot a rabbit, when I shoot a turkey or a deer, it desensitizes me to killing. And I think that's important. If you're squeamish at killing a deer, how are you going to kill a human? I'm not sure you'll be able to do that. You'll hesitate, and he who hesitates is dead. So it's real important that you desensitize yourself to some degree to killing. I mean, some of us don't need it. We're already there. You may have been raised around hunting. You may have been raised on the farm where you slaughter chickens or pigs or whatever. You're not going to need that. But hey, all you city folks, take the time to learn how to hunt. Do it safely, do it wisely. Get out there and kill a few animals so that you know that you can do it. All right. One other thing I noticed on the Big Buck Registry.com guys, Dusty Phillips, Scott, and Jim Keller, they threw around some terms that some of the non-hunters might not know about. They talked about EHD and CWD. EHD is epizootic hemorrhaging disease. It's a fever. I believe it's transmitted by mites. And it's been going all over the country. It was here in Michigan about 5 years ago. Jim Keller talked about that. It will decimate the local deer herd. Also, chronic wasting disease, that they refer to it as CWD. Chronic wasting disease will also devastate the herd. So those are two terms that they were throwing around. I just wanted to mention that so you'd know what they were talking about. So we've got home defense against hunger. We've got patterning. We've got desensitizing yourself to killing. All benefits of hunting and all things you should consider in your home defense plan. Home defense against hunger. Well, folks, we are just about out of time on this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you don't hunt, please consider learning how. You'll love it. Getting out there in the wild, in the woods, in the fields, this time of year is just an awesome, peaceful experience. Now, before you come back to hear us again next week, I want you to check out our sponsors, Firearms Legal Protection, Child Safe One, and Elite Firearms in Training with Larry Jackson. Check them out and make good use of their services and their products. Also, go to Amazon.com, check out Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. That's a must-read. You must have that in your library. I have 3 remaining advanced classes for the season. I've got a Level 1 class on September 22. I've got a Level 2 class, just tomorrow, and then a Level 3 class on September 29th. That is the last advanced class of the season. After that, folks, don't call. I'll be out in my tree stand. So the phone will be turned off on October 1 through November 16th. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this segment of the Home Defense Show. Next week, we will have attorney Steve Doolin and Brady Schickinger, the executive director of Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. And they're going to be telling us all about MCRGO, their organization, and also the state of the constitutional carry bill here in Michigan. What are the chances that it will be signed into law in the near future? Until then, remember, your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember God, family, country in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Daddy, can we watch that hunting movie again?
Well, which movie is that, honey?
Escamana in the Moonlight.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!